Hello everyone, my name is Rob, welcome to Kinetic Rugby League. In this video I'll be giving you my NRL Round 3 predictions. Now I'm going to stick the recap from last week on the screen now, and you can check out how well it went. Thankfully it was a good round. The Roosters, you're dead to me. How dare you? In terms of margins it was pretty good, but really strong result this week with 7 out of 8. Very happy with that. There's some interesting games this week, some very interesting ones. Some I'm not too sure about looking at the team lists, but we'll crack on with the first game and hopefully try and get a perfect week. Kicking things off in round 3, we have the Panthers versus the Broncos, starting with the team list of the Panthers. In the backs, they have Dylan Edwards, Sonia Taruva, Isaac Tango, Taylor May, Brian Toto, Jerome Luai, and Nathan Cleary. In the forwards, they have Moses Leota, Mitch Kenny, Lindsay Smith, Scott Sorensen, Liam Martin, and Isaiah Yeo. And on the bench is Dane Laurie, Matthew Eisenhuth, Liam Henry, and Luke Garner. Looking at the side of the Broncos, in the backs they have Reece Walsh, Jesse Arthurs, Kotoni Staggs, Selwyn Cobbo, Dane Mariner, Ezra Mam, and Jock Madden. Looking at the forwards, they have Corey Jensen, Billy Walters, Payne Haas, Brendan Piacora, Jordan Rickey, and Patrick Carrigan. And on the bench is Tyson Smoothie, Fletcher Baker, Kobe Hetherington, and Marty Tapo. Interesting game, this one. Obviously, the key player missing is, of course, Adam Reynolds. He is going to be an absolutely massive miss. I was thinking with him in the squad, the Broncos have a chance, and they still have a chance because of what players like Ezra Mam and Reece Walsh especially can do individually. I would have felt more confident about this game last season with the Broncos being able to stay in it if they had Herbie Farnworth, because Selwyn Cobbo over on that right-hand side with Kotoni Staggs just works really well. He's still getting used to that position as left centre, so that's taking its time at the moment. Jock Madden, I think, is quite reliable. His kicking game's fine. He has a few good moments running the ball, but compared to this fully fit Panthers team, minus James Fisher-Harris, the Panthers should be completely fine in this game. I think the Broncos will still compete. They'll still make it a challenge for them. But the Panthers have had 2 really tough games to start the season. Broncos, 2 games have been slightly easier. The Panthers just look a little bit better to me. And on both sides of the ball, I think they'll just be a little bit more efficient. And with the lack of clarity and composure and structure that Jock Madden provides, only compared to Adam Reynolds, is going to be the main hindrance in this game. So I'm going to take the Panthers to win 1-12 points. Next up, we have the Warriors versus the Raiders, starting with the team list of the Warriors. In the backs, they have Tane Tarpiki, Dallin Wateni-Zalesniak, Rocco Berry, Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, Marcelo Montoya, Luke Metcalf, and Sean Johnson. In the forwards, they have Adam Fanua-Blake, Wade Egan, Mitchell Barnett, Jackson Ford, Kurt Capewell, and Tohu Harris. And on the bench for the Warriors, they have Freddie Lussick, Tom Ale, Bunty Afoa, and Dylan Walker. Taking a look at the team of the Raiders, in the backs, they have Jordan Rapiner, Nick Kotrich, Matthew Timoko, Albert Hapuate, Xavier Savage, Ethan Strange, and Jamal Fogarty. In the forwards is Josh Papali'i, Danny Levy, Joseph Tarpany, Hudson Young, Elliot Whitehead, and Morgan Smithies. And on the bench for the Raiders, they have Tom Starling, Emre Gula, Zach Hosking, and Pasami Salo. Both of these teams really strong last week. Unfortunate for the Warriors to miss out on a victory against Melbourne Storm, kind of throwing it away in the last few minutes. Absolutely shocking. The Raiders came up against a pretty lackluster West Tigers team, but they still controlled the game well and looked pretty good. Ethan Strange especially looks really promising. So great start to the season for him. Comparing these teams together, I think I'm leaning more towards the Warriors based on, as I said, in reference to the Panthers and the Broncos. The Warriors have had a tougher start to the season. They've played the Sharks and Melbourne Storm. They are first and second in my power rankings. Whereas the Raiders, they've played, I think it's 12th and 17th in my power rankings. Even though, the Knights on paper are a really strong team. This Warriors team will put up a hell of a challenge. Both of the forward packs are really impressive. It's going to be a real tough challenge for both teams. I am leaning slightly towards the Warriors in this one, just because I think the Warriors have been tested more, and Ethan Strange hasn't been given a, like, do you want to call it a proper test yet? I think the Warriors is going to be the biggest test yet for the Raiders, so we'll kind of have to see if there are any chinks in the armour. I think there might be. I get the feeling that there are somewhere. And I think Metcalf, Johnson are going to control the game really well. They're going to find gaps in the Raiders' defence that the Tigers weren't able to. They did a couple times, actually, but I think they'll exploit them a lot more. And they'll maybe attack Kotrish a little bit, because I think it's, I think it's his first start this season. So he's going to possibly be a little bit unfit. And, with the players you've got on either side for the Warriors, you've got Watene Zelezniak, who's an absolute professional on one side, and Tuivasa-Sheck, who's an elite player on the other side. I still need to see a little bit more from him, but you can absolutely see he's still similar to the same player that he was. But yeah, leaning towards the Warriors to get on with a prediction. I'm going to go with the Warriors to win 1-12 points. Next up, we have the Roosters versus the Rabbitohs, starting with the team list of the Roosters. This is going to be a pretty interesting one for both sides. In the backs, they have James Tedesco, Daniel Tupou, Joseph Suwali, Joey Manu, Dominic Young, Sandon Smith, and Sam Walker. In the forwards, Jared Warrior-Hargreaves, Brandon Smith, Lindsay Collins, Nat Butcher, Setilia Tupanua, and Victor Radley. On the bench is Connor Watson, Nafahu White, Terrell May, and Angus Crichton. Looking at the team of the Rabbitohs, in the backs they have Latrell Mitchell, Alex Johnston, Jack Whiten, Isaiah Tass, Tarney Milne, Cody Walker, and Dean Hawkins. In the forwards is Tavita Totola, Damien Cook, David Moale, Kian Kalamatangi, Jacob Host, and Cameron Murray. And on the bench for the Rabbitohs is Saliva Havili, Talis Duncan, Sean Kepi, and Tom Burgess. Interesting looking squads. Really interesting. So, obviously the key names for the Roosters not going to be involved this week. Luke Keary and Siwa Wong are the two main ones that stand out to me. They were awful. Like, the Roosters were pure garbage last week. Utterly abysmal. Go watch my power rankings video and skip to the Roosters bit. That will explain everything. The Rabbitohs have done what they've kind of needed to do for a while, which is drop Ilias. And I'm hoping that Dean Hawkins can really come out and put in a really strong shift. Worst case scenario, if he's not doing it, Jack Whiten is right there on the field ready to go. They just swap him around. Jack Whiten takes on the number 7 role. So, looking at this team on paper, the Rabbitohs look like the stronger team to me, and I have more trust in them right now, even though they are below the Roosters in my power rankings. But I think, just based on performances, I kind of trust the Rabbitohs a little bit more in this game, because the Roosters could be a bit inconsistent. As long as they are a bit more clinical, a bit more clean with possession, they should be able to do a lot of damage to the Rabbitohs. But for me, Cody Walker is the one that does most of the work for the Rabbitohs. So, luckily he's not missing, but Luke Keary is the one that does most of the work in the spine for the Roosters, and he is missing. So, yeah, I am leaning towards the Rabbitohs. I think Latrell Mitchell could absolutely eat this game up. And Jack Whiten, I'm excited to see how it goes for him. I think it could be a real good time in his career to, work with a well-structured team that could push him a little bit closer to a grand final victory. I don't know whether this Rabbitohs team is capable of it, but yeah, I'm just interested to see how it goes for Whiten. But I am leaning, especially in the forward pack as well, the Rabbitohs think are really strong. So I'm going to go with the Rabbitohs to win 1-12 points. Next up, we have the Bulldogs versus the Titans, starting with the team list of the Bulldogs. In the backs, they have Blake Taff, Blake Wilson, Jacob Kiraz, Stephen Crichton, Connor Tracy, Matt Burton, and Drew Hutchison. In the forwards, they have Max King, Reid Marnie, Liam Knight, Viliami Kickout, Jacob Preston, and Jamin Salmon. And on the bench is Kurt Mann, Samuel Hughes, Josh Curran, and Curtis Morin. Looking at the team list of the Titans, they have Keno Kinney, Alifiana Khan-Pereira, Brian Kelly, AJ Brimson, Philip Sammy, Kieran Foran, and Tanner Boyd in the backs. In the forwards, they have Moeki Fotuaika, Chris Randall, Tino Fasu Malawi, Khaleesi Haas, Beau Furman, and Jamin Jolliffe. And on the bench is Sam Verrills, Isaac Liu, Erin Clark, and Keenan Palacia. On paper, I always talk about teams on paper, but the Titans just do look like the stronger team. Kinney, I think, could be really exciting in the future. Foran in there offers a bit more stability. Boyd, I think, had a big step up last season, but I think I need to see a bit more from him. So comparing the spine, and Chris Randall in there is really solid, but comparing the spines together, it still feels like it's quite close, but the Titans just have it for me. And as I said about Whiten with the Rabbitohs, they can throw Brimson into the spine at any point if they absolutely need to. Or even, they can move into fullback if it's needed. But the forward pack for me, for the Titans, wins this one with Fa'asu Malawi and Fotuaika. Marnie helps to carry the Bulldogs forward pack a little bit. Obviously, he won't be carrying the ball that much into the line, but he'll be running with the ball, just not taking the hits. Viliami Kikau could find a few holes defensively in this Titans team. We saw that the Dragons were able to do it, so Kikau could absolutely do it. Matt Burton, his kicking game is always effective every single week, but I just think, looking at these teams, the Bulldogs have just been off. Yes, the Titans were off in round 1, but I trust Des Hasler to produce an exciting attacking team, and they've got the players to do it. So I'm going to go with the Titans to win, 1 to 12 points. Next up, we have the Dragons versus the Cowboys, starting with the team list of the Dragons. In the backs, they have Tyrell Sloan, Zach Lomax, Mosesi Suli, Jack Bird, Michaela Ravalawa, Cal Flanagan, and Ben Hunt. In the forwards is Jack DeBellin, Jesse Marshkay, I think that's how you pronounce it, Blake Laurie, Luciano Leilua, Jaden Stewart, and Tom Eisenhuth. And on the bench is Connor Mulhyson, Michael Molo, Raymond Faitala Mariner, and Viliami Fafita. Taking a look at the team list of the Cowboys, in the backs, they have Scott Drinkwater, Cal Felt, Valentine Holmes, Zach Labert, Murray Talangi, Tom Dearden, and Chad Townsend. In the forwards is Jordan McLean, Reece Robson, Jason Tamalolo, Kulakefu Finafeyuaki, Jeremiah Nanai, Ruben Cotter. Heard it said in commentary multiple times, I'm just trying to get that locked into my brain. On the bench is Jake Granville, Griffin Neem, Sam McIntyre, and Jack. This is a new one. Gusevsky? Jack's at 17. The Cowboys should just win this one. They weren't particularly great against the Knights, however. I thought they were actually pretty poor. That first half, their ability to string anything together was quite bad. It was fortunate for them to still be within the game, because they could have been completely out of it if the Knights had been... if they'd taken their chances a lot more and really done something with their field position. But the thing is, even though the Cowboys gifted a lot of the field position to the Knights, defensively they were excellent. So they were put under a lot of pressure for a lot of that game and dealt with it extremely well. And when it came down to the clutch moments, they came through and got it done. That's the kind of team that the Cowboys are, and that's what I expect. I don't expect them to make it that close, but in the clutch moments, that's what I'm expecting from this team. The Dragons, two ends of the spectrum completely from week 1 to week 2. How they did that, I have no idea. It's quite impressive, actually. But, yeah, I think the spine isn't particularly great. Of course, Ben Hunt is like the biggest factor there, but even without Jake Liddell, they're going to have a little bit less sting going forwards. They still have some decent individuals here and there. I think the forward pack is still quite strong, but compared to the Cowboys Cowboys forward pack, it's just not really going to compete for me. And in the backs, Drinkwater and Dearden could absolutely demolish this Dragons defense, just like the Dolphins did. Yeah, I don't think this game is too complicated. Could be a bit of a surprising one. We will see, but I'm just going to go with the Cowboys to win 13+. Next up, we have the Tigers versus the Sharks, starting with the team list of the Tigers. In the backs, they have Jeremy Bula, Charlie Staines, Solomon Afar-Tape, Justin Olam, Junior Tupou, Lachlan Galvin, and Aiden Caesar. In the forwards is Stefano Otokomanu, Api Coruscant, David Clemmer, Isaiah Papali'i, John Bateman, and Fanua Pole. On the bench is Jaden Sullivan, Alex Seyfarth, Alex Twoll, and Samuela Fainu. Looking at the team list of the Sharks now, in the backs they have William Kennedy, Sione Katoa, Jesse Ramian, Siasifa Talakai, Ronaldo Mulatalo, Braden Trindle, and Nico Hines. In the forwards is Toby Rudolph, Blake Brayley, Oregon Kafusi, Jack Williams, Teague Wilton, and Cameron McInnes. And on the bench is Del Finucane, Royce Hunt, Billy Burns, and Thomas Hazelton. Well, I think you guys probably know where I'm going with this one, so I don't want to yap on too much for this game, but the West Tigers, they had very few moments against, or very few good moments. They had a lot of moments, not all good, but very few good moments. I think Lachlan Galvin looked to really try hard to make things happen, but, you know, is very inexperienced and will struggle a lot, especially against a really strong defensive team like the Sharks. It's going to be a long day for him. It really is. Jareem Bula, we need to see a big step up from him. Aiden Caesar coming in at number 7 starting this week is going to be important. Can he really set the tone? Can he maybe try and get like a 40-20 early on? Really put some pressure on the Sharks, get some repeat sets? I think that's what he's got to take on. He's got to take on that responsibility to put all the pressure on the Sharks and take everything he can off of Galvin, so that when he gets an opportunity, he's just focusing on, here's a gap, I'm running for it. That's all they need from Caesar. Well, I say all they need. They need Caesar to basically do absolutely everything with the ball. Justin Olam could create a lot of opportunities by himself. He's one of those individuals we saw it a hell of a lot with Melbourne Storm. You just give him a bit of space around the outside, he just bulldozes you over with one arm and he's gone. But I don't think the Sharks would allow that to happen too much. I don't think they'll allow the Tigers to really get much control in this game. They'll have their field position from time to time, the Tigers, but the Sharks will really limit that because they'll get repeat sets themselves. The king game from Nico Hines and Trindle will be too strong. They can play the ball down the short side. They can stretch the ball if they need to. The Sharks, really strong defensively. They're just going to outmatch them in all areas. In the backs, in the forwards, defensively, in attack, kicking game, running game, everywhere is going to be won by the Sharks. If anything is won by the Tigers, then fair enough. And it's at least a positive sign. But this could be a massacre. It really could be. But I'm going to go with the Sharks to win 13+. Next up, we have the Eels versus the Seagulls, starting with the team list of the Eels. In the backs, they have Clint Gutherson, Morgan Harper, Will Penasini, Blaze Talangi, Sean Russell, Dylan Brown, and Mitchell Moses. In the forwards, they have Regan Campbell-Gillard, Joey Lussick, Junior Parlow, Sean Lane, Bryce Cartwright, and Jermaine Hopgood. On the bench is Luca Moretti, Ryan Matheson, Joe Offahengawi, and Kelma Talangi. Taking a look at the team list of the Seagulls, in the backs, they have Tom Trebojevic, Raymond Tuamalo Vega, Tulo Kula, Ruben Garrick, Jackson Barlow, Luke Brooks, and Deli Cherry Evans. In the forwards is Taniela Paseka, Lachlan Croker, Josh Aloye, Hamol Olakwatu, Ben Trebojevic, and Jake Trebojevic. On the bench for the Seagulls, Carl Lawton, Corey Waddell, Ethan Bullymore, and Nathan Brown. I think the first thing that sticks out for me is both these teams have exceptional forward packs. Taniela Paseka's had a great start to the season. A few years ago, when he wasn't getting much game time, I was hoping that my team would have brought him in. Because I was thinking, he's young, he's tall, he's heavy, he runs really, really quick. But if he's not getting as much game time, maybe my team would snatch him up. But yeah, he's getting the recognition that he deserves that I saw from a few years ago. So I'm really happy for him, and he's started the season out really, really well. The power and pace that the Seagulls are playing with is really impressive. But I also like that the Eels were able to really compete against the Panthers. In terms of control, they didn't really have much. They didn't get much field position, but when they had good field position, they put up a really good number of points very quickly and really took it to the Panthers. So, of course, the Seagulls, I don't think, they're close to the Panthers. But I don't know. I think Luke Brooks, another week in with this Seagulls team, will learn more and more. There's a bit more reshaping in the backs for the Eels and a bit more consistency for the Seagulls this week. So I think in the forwards, I think they'll compete very closely. I think the bench of the Seagulls is a little bit more reliable, to be honest. And also, Tom Trebojevic, I think, is a much more effective fullback than Clint Gutherson. Luke Brooks is actually much more effective, or has looked more effective than Dylan Brown. Moses versus Cherry Evans is always going to be a fun battle, but I think Cherry Evans wins that one. So yeah, on paper, like for like, I think I'd lean just towards the Seagulls. So I'm going to go with the Seagulls to win 1 to 12 points. Finally, for round 3, we have the Knights versus the Storm. Starting with the team list of the Knights, in the backs they have Kalen Ponga, Thomas Jenkins, Dane Gagai, Bradman Best, Inari Tala, Tyson Gamble and Jack Cogger. In the forwards is Jacob Saifiti, Phoenix Crosland, Leo Thompson, Tyson Frizzell, Kai Piss-Paul and Adam Elliott. On the bench is Jaden Brayley, Daniel Saifiti, Jack Hetherington and Jed Cartwright. Taking a look at Melbourne Storm, in the backs they have Ryan Pappenhausen, Will Warbrick, Remus Smith, Nick Meaney, Xavier Coates, Jonah Pizzette and Tyron Wishart. In the forwards is Tui Kamakamitha, Harry Grant, Josh King, Joe Chan, Eliesa Katoa and Trent Liero. On the bench is Kane Bradley, Tepai Morewa, Chris Lewis and Alec McDonald. Apologies there. So no Jerome Hughes and no Cameron Munster still. However, I'm leaning towards Melbourne Storm, and here's why. Number 1, I think that Ryan Pappenhausen would be more effective against this Knights defence than Kalen Ponga would be against this Melbourne Storm defence. One of the main reasons being is that there has been a slight change in the centres and wing for the Knights, whereas centre and wing has remained the same for Melbourne Storm. So there's one. Number 2, Jack Cogger is a replacement for Jackson Hastings. Tyron Wishart is a replacement for Jerome Hughes. I understand that the difference in replacements are very different. I understand that. However, the thing that allows me to stay confident in Melbourne Storm is that the individuals that they have in centre and wing can still produce great opportunities. They're all intelligent players, quality players. But Jonah Pizzette, I think, is in for a really big week. And the fact that I think they're going to be looking at him. I think, you'll obviously rely on Harry Grant to get you going through the middle and to set the tone, which he will do a lot of. Ryan Pappenhausen will be constantly moving left and right, popping up all over the place, trying to make things happen. But I think I've got a feeling the Knights will take their eye off the ball here, focus too much on Pappenhausen and Grant, because they'll think, oh, well, there's no Hughes, there's no Munster, so we'll focus on the 2 key players that are left over. And they'll take their eye off Jonah Pizzette, and he'll just come up with something. I think he's really in for a big week, and the fact that he's been there since the start of the season. He's not just coming in this week with Tyron Wishart. He's had time to train and develop and work together with this team. That's really important for him. So I think he's in for a big week. In terms of the forwards, I think it leans slightly towards the Knights in terms of carries, post-contact meters, that kind of thing. In terms of overall pace and tone being set, that gets mitigated by the fact that Harry Grant is at number 9 for Melbourne Storm. But I do think the bench for the Knights is slightly better than the bench for the Melbourne Storm. But overall, for me, it's the number 1 to 6 jerseys in Melbourne Storm that just give me enough trust in this game. I'm still not too sure about the Knights. They've played 2 fairly strong teams so far. 2 really strong teams so far, actually. And Melbourne Storm have also played 2 really strong teams so far. Probably slightly stronger on paper. And the consistencies in this team, I just trust Storm a little bit more. So I'm going to go with Melbourne Storm to win 1 to 12 points. So to recap my predictions for this week, I'm going to take the Panthers, Warriors, Rabbitohs and Titans to win by 1 to 12. I'm going to take the Cowboys and Sharks to win by 13+. And I'm going to take the Seagulls and Storm to win by 1 to 12 points. In terms of winners' confidence, I'm at about 55%. There are a bunch of games here that could go the other way. The Roosters could beat the Rabbitohs. I feel like the Titans might throw it against the Bulldogs. The Eels and the Seagulls could be a very close game. The Knights could beat Melbourne Storm. So there's a few question marks in there. So confidence in terms of winners is quite low. But in terms of margin confidence, I think if the winners that I've predicted do win, I can't see them winning by any other margin than this. So I'm at about 90% in terms of margin confidence. So yeah, That is my recap for round 3. So that's going to be it for my round 3 predictions. If you have your own predictions, do let me know in the comments down below. Also, let me know how you got on last week. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to leave a like and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with new Rugby League content. But that's going to be it. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.